Time now is 8:35. It's April 1st, watching some showers and thunderstorms out there. I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to show you some model data. I'll show you how it's backed off here in the last couple of hours. I do still think we have a risk of severe weather, but it's more isolated and not as scattered as we once thought it would be earlier in the day. So let's talk about what's happening now and what's going to happen through the rest of the overnight hours. First things first, I want to bring you the radar. This is a look at what's going on right now. Now, we do have some showers and storms that are out there. This one in particular was strong earlier. It had a severe thunderstorm warning on it. I'll play this, and you can see as it's tried to develop here, it moved to the east. It's actually started to fade a little bit as it's moved northeastward. Now, what's probably happening is here there's some residual capping above our heads. There's an elevated warm layer, and what that does is this warm air hits it and it starts to suppress it. What we need is the upper level winds to come in and uncork that and let those storms run free. That's happening in northeast Oklahoma, not so much so, at least at the moment, in southeast Oklahoma. This has been the one that we've been watching all evening, though, and it's still one to watch as it moves towards the east. But as we zoom back out, I mean, there's been one tornado today, it looks like, out around Osage in Oklahoma. Public report of a tornado on the ground near Hominy. That's tracked towards the northeast. At the moment, though, it doesn't look very impressive, does it? I've been kind of surprised, too, that this hasn't filled in. Been waiting to see some storms fill in this area. So let's take a look at what this is going to do here for the next well, let's call it probably the next few hours. Let's see if I can pull this up here for you here and look at the high resolution data. So this is the HRRR model, and I've got it parked on us right now. So here's what we expect to see. This is what the model thinks is going to happen, and it's got some of this right. I mean, you can see some stuff up here in northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, as well as southeast Oklahoma. But instead of like 4 or 5 storms, it's just the one storm. This is the newest model run too. But watch this, guys. I thought this was really interesting. I was playing with this a moment ago. If I take this and I back it up 6 hours, look how robust the storms were then. 6 hours ago, the model showed the whole thing blowing through. Not only that, you could go back 3 hours ago and it showed quite a bit, but you go to right now, and it looks pretty similar to where we are right now. So where do we go from here? Well, as we head into the overnight, you can see that storm that's headed towards Fort Smith will move to the northeast. It still has severe potential with it. It still needs to be monitored. And then during the overnight, let me take you to about midnight, which is right here. The HRRR is still showing another round of showers firing up around Tulsa, tracking northeast. This could get into Benton County, so I think we do have that risk there. But I mean, look at some parts of our area don't even get rain out of this as it moves northeastward. So you have the one that's down to the south that's approaching Fort Smith, and you have the ones that are in southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma. The instability is not particularly high. The shear is really high. I think the shear is probably the biggest risk for us this evening, and that could lead to that large hail risk for the overnight hours. There's also something called a low-level jet stream. Now, the low-level jet stream forms due to a difference in temperature and pressure between the Gulf and the landmass, the United States. So what happens is during the overnight, you start getting a river of air flowing about 8,000 feet up above our heads. Often that'll give us a little bit more of a turn, and we tend to see storms intensify from about 10 p.m. to about 3, 4 a.m., somewhere in there. And that's a lot of times when we get these overnight storms, what we see. But as it stands right now, again, going back to that model data, it doesn't look all that impressive, at least at the moment. I'm not saying it won't happen tonight, but it looks less likely than it did earlier this afternoon. If that stuff that comes through northwest Arkansas, that's let's see, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. 2, 3-ish, somewhere in there, maybe we could see some showers move through. Again, assuming the HRRR actually holds true with this. I'm going to back you down, though. Watch this. Let's move this 5 hours ago and see what happens. It still shows it. So it was there earlier in the day. It's there now. Some of the stuff that was there earlier is gone. That's current run. That's 2 runs ago. That's 3 runs ago. You can see how we look at the data. As meteorologists, we'll look at each model run and we'll compare it to the last one. That's why a lot of times when many of you are, what about Springville? What about Fort Smith? I don't know. I mean, it depends on where the storm environment is and where these individual storms tend to form. Technology is not quite advanced enough to know exactly where the cell will form. As of now, though, at least looking at radar trends, it doesn't look to be trending up. It looks to be trending down. And especially that storm that I've been watching in McAllister that was severe for a moment actually has faded as it moves to the east. I think it's encountering some capping inversions. What you're also seeing, too, with the radar bloom here, that you can see the ground clutter. So what happens is the radar beam, as the ground cools, the temperature's aloft or warmer, and the radar beam hits it and refracts back down. And so you actually end up with this little radar bloom that comes up on there. You can see it there now. And oftentimes we can find little mesoscale boundaries that are embedded within that. That long track supercell here caused, it looks like, three tornadoes just to the northwest of Tulsa. So we've had some severe weather reports today as it moves northeast, but there's a big gap. I mean, a big gap from like Tulsa to Fort Smith where there's nothing going on right now. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm going to go back over to another radar image here to show you what's going on. This is takes a look at some of the storms and the general track of the storms. This is moving towards Stigler and Sallisaw. I think eventually it probably does get into Fort Smith. We get some rain, thunder, lightning out of it. As of right now, it's not trending severe though when it gets into Fort Smith. So we'll watch this thing and see how it plays out. And keep in mind too, we've got that other stuff that's out there as we move into the overnight hours. This is I'm going to take a look at where the rotation and hail is. I'm going to back all the way out of here first and look at the rotation. I don't see any rotation on this stuff down to the south. To the north, though, there's still some rotation on this, some pretty tight rotation here northwest of Anita. As far as the rain goes, not much. There are some showers starting to develop around Oklahoma City. Those will track northeastward, but I think this one continues to trend down. Maximum estimated hail size here. There's no hail in this storm anymore. The one to the north, northwest of Anita's got hail in about a half an inch. So it's not really even that impressive in terms of the hail. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on this evening. Some showers and storms. Had some tornadoes up around Springfield. Also some tornadoes up around let me go back to analyst here. You can see it. Had some tornadoes around Springfield, also some tornadoes around St. Louis earlier today, lining up from northwest to southeast. And the atmosphere is still unstable. There's a lot of dynamics in play here, but at least as of now, it doesn't look that impressive as we head through the 9 and 10 o'clock hour. I'll be the first to admit, I thought it was going to be around 9 and 10 when this moved through, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen as far as that goes. The second round, around 2 or 3 is possible. That looks more towards northwest Arkansas. So we'll keep an eye on this. The Storm Prediction Center seems to think that that the tornado threat will persist during the overnight hours in northwest Arkansas, as well as a hail threat in the Fort Smith area. As it stands now, I don't see it, but it's still something to look at and something to monitor. Off with that low-level jet kicking in, as well as the trough swinging into that unstable air mass, it is possible that we could be dealing with some more severe weather later on tonight. I just don't think it looks as impressive as it does earlier. And even though the Storm Prediction Center is looking at that in in our region right now, it doesn't look as impressive. That storm's trending down. One more look at it here. You can see here in Stigler moving northeastward towards Fort Smith, some heavy rainfall, but overall the trend. And remember, the trend's your friend, been trending down in the Fort Smith area, and the stuff to the north has been moving out. Might even be a little bit of a break here from Tulsa before that next stuff in Oklahoma City starts to move its way on through. So that's what's happening right now with the showers and storms that are out there. We're not under a watch. The Storm Prediction Center is saying there's an 80% chance of issuing a watch for parts of northwest Arkansas. We'll see what happens with that. Again, I think that's later. You saw the model data with me. It looks after midnight, closer to 2 or 3 with that stuff. But even then, I think that might be a stretch. We'll see what happens with it as we head into the overnight and keep a close eye on it. I'll keep you posted and keep an eye on it as long as I can stay awake. Got a day job now. See you guys next time.